Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to our read-along of Frank Herbert's science fiction masterpiece, Dune. We have changed scenes now. In the last chapter, we were dealing with Paul and Jessica as they get unexpected help from the planetologist Kynes, an Imperial servant who has been sent to study Dune, the planet Dune, the spice melange, but also to serve as judge of the change in the switchover from House Harkonnen to House Atreides. And we know, because we've been told, and Kynes is also, we've also eavesdropped on his thoughts, that he has been ordered or suborned to subvert the process. He knows perfectly well that the Harkonnen are planning to destroy House Atreides using help from the Emperor's Imperial Sardaukar. And he doesn't say anything. So he is a corrupted judge of the change. But when he meets the Atreides, when he actually meets the Duke and his son Paul and Gurney Halleck, he feels something. He feels the pull of their innate nobility, of their followability, of their honor. And in this grubby world that we have met, that Frank Herbert has created for us, that is rare and means something. Keep in mind, that honor is most thoroughly alive in the desert people of the Fremen. And Dr. Kynes knows the desert people of the Fremen really, really well. He married one. He's had a child with one, and he has himself, as one character puts it, gone native. He recognizes in the Atreides something that is very much akin to the Fremen, and nothing like the Harkonnens. He's momentarily tempted to sympathy in that scene in the first part of this book. But in this part of the book, he not only is tempted to sympathy, he's completely won over. Not by the Duke, who's dead by this point, but by Paul, young Paul. He is flipped to helping the Atreides. And he helps them to escape in an ornithopter, and he escapes, and we see Duncan Idaho fall defending them in a rearguard action. And now the scene shifts. We are not following Paul and Jessica. Instead, we're moving to Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, who's in many ways the effector of the downfall of House Atreides. We get the impression that the plan was originated by his mentat, Peter de Vries, who is dead. But the Baron is the evil. He's the bad guy in this story. He's the one who is spending everything that he has, and keep in mind he has a lot, because he's been running Dune, the planet, for a long time, extracting the resources, the money that is the spice that is more valuable than anything in the entire Imperium. So he spends all of that money to bring down the Duke, mainly in the form of bribes and freight transport for the Spacing Guild to move a huge number of troops to Arrakis. The Spacing Guild has a complete monopoly on interplanetary space travel, so it doesn't matter how much money he has, it doesn't matter how much influence he has, it doesn't matter how much of those things the Emperor has. That no one can do space travel but the Guild. So we move to a scene with the Baron here, where he talks with two different people. First, the captain of his guard comes to make a report to him, to tell him that the Lady Jessica and Paul Atreides, the heir to the House Atreides, are dead. They are certainly dead. They are certainly dead. He says it 4 times. That they were lost in one of Dune's massive sandstorms that can kill anything, destroy metal, strip flesh from bone, splinter bone. They were chased into that storm by Harkonnen craft, and the storm was so bad even on its edges that one of those craft was lost. So they have to be dead. And the guard says this, or the captain of the guard says this to Baron Harkonnen, even though, as Baron Harkonnen points out, there are no bodies. If there are no bodies, you don't know they are certainly dead. You don't know that. So the guard repeats that over and over again. But the guard also gives the Baron some amazing news. The Baron wants Dr. Kynes killed. He knows that Dr. Kynes sided with his enemies at the last minute. He won't have that, so he wants him killed even though he's an Imperial servant. And in addition to that, the captain of his guard gives him an amazing piece of news, which is that Duke Leto Atreides' master assassin mentat, Thufir Hawat, has been captured, virtually undamaged, we're told. and is currently in the possession of the Sardaukar, who want to make sport with him. In other words, they want to torture him and humiliate him. Whereas the Baron has a better idea. He is missing a Mentat. His Mentat Peter is dead. And Mentats are supposed to be living computers. You show them the logic of their situation and they will simply adapt, and then you will have use of their skills. And according to the Baron, Thufir Hawat is one of the greatest Mentats in history. As I've mentioned before in our read-along of this book, I don't see that myself, but the Baron certainly thinks so, and orders the captain of his guard to get both Kynes and Hawat away from the Sardaukar. Kynes so that he can, quote-unquote, meet with an accident, and Hawat so that he can be suborned. He will be shown the hopelessness of his position, he will be told that his masters have been wiped out, and he will be convinced that there is Mentat logic in simply becoming the working Mentat of the Baron. And he will also be fed a poison and an antidote, so that he can't leave the service of the Baron. You wonder how many of the Baron's servants are like that. So those are the two pieces of news that he gets from his captain of the guard, with whom he is brutal and manipulative and curt and abrupt. And then the captain leaves and he gets another visitor. And this is his nephew, Rabban. When Rabban enters the room, the Baron is wearing a full body shield. He wants to make sure Rabban knows that he doesn't trust him. And when he enters the room, the Baron thinks that he is a tank-brained plodder. And that's all. That he's just a big block of brainless muscle. And that's exactly what the Baron tells Rabban he wants. He wants to place you back in control of Dune. Rabban was the Sirdar. He was basically the governor of Dune for the time that the Harkonnens originally owned it. And now he's going back into that position. The Baron tells him, you must be ruthless. You must squeeze this planet for everything that you can get out of it, because you could do that for 60 years straight and we would only barely pay back what we expended to destroy House Atreides, what we expended on guild shipping charges and bribes and whatnot. He hints to Rabban just how much that process cost, and also mentions another point, a point that we've come up with before on this read-along, which is that the Emperor does not know that he suborned the Suk training of a doctor. It's actually Rabban who asked the question, does the Emperor know that you managed to break the training of a Suk-trained doctor? Because that's all important. These doctors go to the major houses and to the Emperor with that training as a guarantee that they will not be just easily suborned by the person's enemies. Slip poison in the food, overdose a drug. It'd be easy. The doctor, your personal physician, is the most natural choice for an in-house trader. Which is a little bit odd that Thufir Hawat didn't see that. But at one point when Rabban asked that question, the Baron actually reflects to himself just briefly, that was a shrewd question. Has he been talking to someone? And then he brushes it off and just rumbles on and monologues on. And at one point later in the conversation, Rabban says, you know, Uncle, I really think you underestimate the Fremen. We have reports that they annihilated a Sardaukar force. Of course, we know from later on in the book that they did a lot more than annihilate just one Sardaukar force. They almost beat the invasion, even though it was a total surprise and their enemies had all the advantages. That not only does Rabban have reports that they annihilated a Sardaukar force, but also that he's spent a lot of time on Dune as its governor, and really thinks these people are more formidable than you give them credit, and there are also more of them than you think. And the Baron completely dismisses it. They're rabble, they don't count, they're not important. It's the city populations that I worry about. You must give them just enough to survive and nothing else. You must crush them under the heel. Don't exterminate them, but crush them completely. And the Baron has a plan that he doesn't tell to Rabban, which is that you will become such a name for terror on Arrakis that when I replace you with my other nephew, Feyd-Rautha, who is not a tank-brained moron and who is comely and attractive, the people will rejoice. They will view him as a coming messiah. It won't even matter that he won't be any less punitive than you are. They will love him. Apparently, the Baron wants that. We have all sorts of... There's a thread running all throughout this book of the hopes that one generation has for the next generation. Whether it's the Bene Gesserit hoping and also shaping the next generation that will give them the Kwisatz Haderach, or whether it's the Duke and his hopes for his son to make some sort of a life for himself on Dune, whether it's the hope of Jessica for her unborn daughter, whether it's the hope of the Fremen for their children to live on a greener and wetter world, no matter what it is, that the groups of people with their eyes looking forward to the next generation is a staple throughout this book. And the Baron has his own twisted version, which is they will manipulate one nephew against another. Obviously, when Rabban leaves Dune in order for Feyd-Rautha to take over, he will be leaving in a box. He will not be leaving to a peaceful retirement. We know that. Rabban doesn't seem to get that. And then once Rabban has presented all of his information, he leaves. Once he gets his marching orders, squeeze the planet, then he leaves. And the Baron is left thinking about his plan. In his mind, he's gloating in his plan about how wonderful it will be when Feyd-Rautha returns to Dune to take over as a lovely messiah, because isn't he lovely? Such a lovely boy, such a lovely body. He's thinking carnal thoughts about his own nephew as the scene closes. Which is, it's meant to advance the plot by showing you, again, like so many of the scenes that we've been looking at, the fragmentary way that people are now piecing together the fallout of this great thing that is now done. This thing that was done in the first part of this book. It's meant to do that. It's meant to forward that just a little. But for me, this chapter has always done something else, which is to underscore how stupid Baron Harkonnen is. How stupid he is. There are innumerable ways that you can see this. Innumerable ways. For instance, just to pick an easy one from the last part of the book, he suborns a doctor. He knows the doctor doesn't trust him. He's given instructions to his men that the doctor is not to be allowed near him. He knows the doctor has had time alone with Duke Leto before Duke Leto is presented to him, and he will get very close to Duke Leto. You don't have to be a genius to think that maybe the doctor would have a plan. That maybe he wouldn't just be meekly betraying the people he loves and then just meekly dying. It never seems to cross the Baron's mind that the doctor will do anything more than maybe take a lunge at him. Ridiculous. Also, how many times does the Baron have to be told by one hapless underling or another that Jessica and Paul are certainly dead? He doesn't know that, and he knows that he doesn't know that, but he doesn't act on it. He doesn't take any actions on it. It's not like the storm that they allegedly flew into is an infinite thing. It's big, but it's not infinite. Anyway, also, they don't have metal detectors. He tells Beast Rabban, you can do anything you want to the planet Dune. You can suppress it in any way you want. Rabban's first question is, well, can I use the artillery, the cannons and drill bits that you used to beat the Atreides? And the Baron waves it off, said, you won't need that. Of course. You would need that. It would be very handy to have that. Also, he tells Rabban very sententiously that well, Thufir Hawat is a Mentat. I know what you're going to say, that I can't use him because he's loyal to death to the House Atreides, but he's a Mentat. Once you present him with the facts, his loyalty won't mean anything. Utterly ridiculous. Now, you could say that he doesn't see that because he has no Harkonnen knows anything about loyalty. Okay, fine. But he's also been warned by Rabban that there are more Fremen that he thinks, and they're more dangerous than he thinks. He ignores it completely. And also, he starts off Rabban's visit by saying that he's a tank-brained moron. All throughout the conversation that they have, Rabban asks shrewd, penetrating questions and offers shrewd analysis of field reports. The Baron notices the questions, ignores the analysis, and when Rabban is leaving, he thinks to himself, what a tank-brained moron. He is stupid. Baron Harkonnen is stupid. That's all my takeaway of this chapter. But we know that it's just a feint on Frank Herbert's part as an author, because the only thing that we as a reader at this point want to know about, we don't want to know about the mop-up procedures. We don't want to know about the Baron making sure the Emperor doesn't learn that he subverted a Sook doctor. We want to know what happens to Paul and Jessica. They flew into a storm, and Herbert is not going to keep us waiting long. So we'll move on from there next time, and I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.